We have an ace here today to help us kind of sit and meditate to the best of our ability and bring mindfulness and some warmth to the current discomfort. The Reverend Angel Kyodo Williams is joining us from the left coast of the United States. Reverend Angel, thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's a great day to be here.
And I should say, by way of background, you're an ordained Zen teacher, and you are the author of the book Radical Dharma. People can't see your whole outfit, but you've got Radical Dharma, yeah, on your tops and bottoms of the sweat outfit. So, I have the book in my bookshelf here, but I can't reach it. Anyway, having said all of that, just curious to hear how you're doing, because I assume, like the rest of us, you were up late watching returns.
I was up late. We did a non-watch party, listen to some music, and then I would peek and look at the maps. I had a pretty good sense that we weren't going to get results pretty early on in the evening, and I feel good. I feel like this is what these practices are meant for, is to navigate holding uncertainty and groundlessness. And so I feel really, really happy to have this available. And I hope that all of you that, don't have necessarily a regular practice, that this is going to be useful for you, because this is exactly what these practices are made for.
Well, let's talk more about that. How can we use meditation to deal with uncertainty? I did a podcast in the wee hours of the morning with your co-author, Lama Rod Owens. And as I said to him, this is a statement of the obvious, but the human animal is not well wired to deal with uncertainty. So what are your thoughts about how we can use meditation to cope in the face of all of this stuff we don't know?
Yeah, I think it is absolutely true. And I think that it's really, it is not understood as much as we need to understand how uncertainty is just not our wiring. And so it's not your fault if you're feeling freaked out, and if you feel all out of sorts as a result of what we would call the groundlessness of not knowing. And whole traditions exist for the purpose of getting people to be able to be more toned up to navigating and holding uncertainty in their bodies and in their minds and in their hearts. The way that I think about what meditation does is it builds our capacity to call our attention back to where we want it. And so whenever we're in our practice on an ongoing basis, we're building that little muscle to be able to say, like, okay, attention, you are someplace else. Come on back over here. So come on back to center, come back to, presence and presence. One could also say, come back to the present, because much of what our uncertainty is, our anxiety around uncertainty is about, is that we have pitched ourselves into the future, and we're trying to get a picture of a future that we can't actually get a hold of. And that's when our anxiety really goes way up, because we're trying to form a sense of, this is what is true and this is how life is going to unfold. And when we don't have the answers, we just can't fill in the picture. And so if you can imagine, looking down the road, and you've got, an image of you in front of the road, and a lot of it is just like blotted out, or you can't, or there's a whole bunch of fog on it and you can't quite tell what's happening on the road. Of course, we would have anxiety and uncertainty. And if you have meditation available to you, if you have a practice of pulling your attention back into the present moment available to you, you have a much better chance to reconnect with exactly where you are. And exactly where you are is a perfectly grand place to be. In fact, it's the only place we can really be. So our mind is playing tricks on us when we're heading into the future. So meditation helps us build the muscle of being able to return back to the present moment, back to where we are right now, both to feel what we're feeling right now, and also to let go of running our bodies on the feelings that actually aren't true to the experience that we're having in this particular moment. So like right now, I'm not having a big loss of an election. I'm not having a big celebration of an election won. Right now, I'm in my seat and I'm enjoying this time with all of you.
Let me ask a skeptical question. I'm channeling a skeptic because I'm not a skeptic on this score. And I'm going to ask it quickly because I want to get to actually doing some meditation. But you're arguing for feeling what we're feeling right now. But I can imagine somebody saying, I don't want to feel what I'm feeling right now because what I'm feeling right now sucks.
Yeah. Well, when your interpretation of your feeling right now probably sucks, but your feeling, if you just actually are present with your actual feeling, meaning your sensory perception, like, oh, actually, I feel it's not like a sucky feeling. What it actually is like my skin feels a little uncomfortable. I feel a little bit itchy. I feel warm in the belly. And when you get down to the senses, it turns out that actually what we're feeling is actually just feeling. That's what we're getting. We're getting feeling. We put a whole idea and a concept, we put associations on the sensory feelings that we have, and then we make them into sucky, we make them into great, we make them into all sorts of things that we then get caught up in, and we mistake our interpretations of our feelings for ourselves, kind of like we mistake our interpretations of what's going to happen with the election, for reality. And that creates a lot of what Buddhists would call suffering, right? It creates, and the way I say in modern terms, it creates contraction. So we actually pull ourselves away from life and the experience of life that's happening right now, which is sensations, warmth, itchiness, little, like belly making gurgle sounds. That's actually what's really happening for us if we allow ourselves to be present.
Yeah, my belly gurgling is from the pretzels I stress ate last night. So I think now is an appropriate time to move from talking about meditation to actually doing some meditation. So I'm gonna hush up and let you take over.
Okay. Well, it would be really great for us to do a little bit of practice with being present. And I find that the fastest way for me to remind myself of exactly where I am in both time and space is to just start with my feet and to feel my feet. And so I'm going to invite you to feel your feet. You might even wiggle your toes a little bit, because sometimes when we are stressing out, we start to lose contact with the feeling in our body. We get a little bit of numb, and all we're feeling is the thoughts moving through our head. So just begin by feeling your feet, wiggling your toes, maybe picking your heels up off of the floor a little bit, and then spreading your toes and planting them firmly back down. And just with that gesture, you may be able to uh, bring yourself into the room, into the location where you're standing or sitting at this particular moment. And as you allow yourself to feel the soles of your feet, you can bring your attention to your breath, wherever it is that your breath is. You don't have to control it. You can just bring your awareness to the breath as it is, wherever it is in your body. Maybe in this moment, it feels a little rapid. And you might notice the quality of breath that you have. So rather than judging the breath as being a good breath or a bad breath or a right breath or a wrong breath, just really bringing your attention to the senses and what is the quality of that breath. Is it rapid? Is it shallow? Are you beginning to notice the breath finding perhaps a little bit more spaciousness? And where it is that you feel the breath, what is the quality? What is the direct sensory perception of that part of your body? Maybe it's your belly, and your belly feels a little bit tight. Maybe it's in your throat and it feels free flowing. And now you can bring your attention to the journey that the breath takes through your nose, to the back of the head, past the throat, down into the chest and into the belly. Just travel with the breath as it returns the other direction, past the chest, past the throat, out through the nose or through the lips. Tuning into just the sensations, Not your thought about the sensation, your judgment about the sensation, just the sensation. The sensation of cool, the sensation of warm, the sensation of heavy, the sensation of fluttering, whatever the sensation might be for you. Just take a moment right now and feel into the direct sensation of the breath as it is in your body. It may also be helpful to give yourself, in addition to the connection of your feet on the earth, also your seat. Whether you're standing or sitting or lying or walking. Just bringing your attention to your buttocks. Giving ourselves a feeling of wholeness, of fullness, of three-dimensionality. That we're not just the thoughts moving in our head, but actually we can feel our back body, our buttocks, under our thighs, our legs, all the way down to those feet that are connecting with the ground. Maybe feel into the weight of your body connected to your buttocks, connected to your seat. As you feel the weight of the body in the buttocks, you can also feel the weight of the body on the shoulders. Notice your clothing touching your skin. Again, attention to the breath. Notice where the breath is, and then notice the breath as it rests in the belly. And then attention, noticing the quality or the temperature of our body feels, how our skin feels. And bringing the attention back to the belly and the breath resting in the belly. And perhaps you notice that thoughts are arising and pulling for your attention. You can notice that they're there and then bring your attention back to the breath as it rests in the belly. Particularly on the out breath, noticing the attention, bringing your attention to your breath as it rests in the belly. Maybe there are sounds around you, maybe there are people moving, maybe there are things that are pulling for your attention, calling you to distraction, and you can notice them and pick your attention up and bring it back to the breath as it rests in the belly. Feeling the weight of the breath, feeling the quality of the breath, feeling the spaciousness of the breath as it rests in the belly. Being curious about the quality of the breath. And naturally, you'll also notice other sensations, the heart beating. As the body gets quiet, you can hear more parts of the body. You can feel more sensations. You can be curious about those. Knowing that where you are right now is here. With the breath as it rests in the belly. And anything that may have happened in the past and anything that may happen in the future are in the past or in the future, and you are here with your breath as it rests in the belly, arising and falling, and allowing it to be just as it is, allowing yourself to be present to just what is in this moment with the sensations of the body, being neither good nor bad, just here, just present. Maybe noticing feelings that you associate with anxiety or worry. And being curious enough about what does anxiety feel like? What does worry feel like? What does the emotion that you speak of or that you're naming actually feel like as a sense? Is it fluttery? Is it warm? Maybe it feels speedy. You could notice that and bring your attention back to the breath as it rests in the belly. It's right here is where you are right now in this moment. There is a ground in this moment. It's not in the future, it's not in the past. There's always a ground in this moment. And you can return to it over and over again. Return to your breath as it rests in the belly in this moment, here, in the present, now. As you're ready, allow your eyes to open if they are closed or to lift, and allow more of the space around you to become in your awareness as we return to our time together here.
Thank you, Reverend. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Folks, if you have questions, you can send them in to us in the chat section. We're already getting some questions in, and George asks a great question. Can hope coexist with mindfulness? Just to expand on that, given that mindfulness is supposed to be about non-judgmentally accepting what's happening right now, is hope somehow outside of the scope of mindfulness?
Yeah, I don't think, I distinguish mindfulness like practices. And so we engage in mindfulness practices to develop a skill set and a deeper capacity to be able to have more command, if you will, of our attention and where we place our attention. So in the in between times when we're not actively practicing mindfulness, all manner of things arise, including hope and fear and anxiety and all of those things. All of them are perfectly acceptable in the span of our human experience. The question is whether those things overtake you so that you're not able to return to yourself and be present. And so in that way, hope can be just as distracting away from the reality that is in front of us. So if your hope is distracting you from actually meeting reality as it is, and what's actually called for right now is not hope, but some action, then hope will be problematic. But it's not inherently problematic to have hope as part of the span of the human experience. And we should certainly, I think, engage not only hope, but all of the other things like, joy, and allow ourselves to feel into our fears. The question is, will you allow yourself to fully feel it? And will you allow yourself the opportunity to be able to return to just your experience as it is? If you have both of those, then you have everything you need. All of it's inside of mindfulness.
Kyle asks, sometimes I find myself falling into an anxiety spiral over what will happen. What can I do to get out of it?
Well, first of all, you can acknowledge that it will actually do absolutely has no use in terms of changing whatever the thing is that you are being anxious about. And I think that, beyond just the actual practice of meditation, having the mindset, which is why we have lots of precepts and that kind of thing. Having a mental framework that helps us understand how to relate to our mindfulness practice is really helpful. So just the basic recognition that no amount of anxiety, no amount of spiraling is going to change the situation. Now, that's easier said than experienced, and that's where the mindfulness practice comes in. So then you have this practice of simply returning back to yourself again, brings you in right relationship with time, and then you can see that whatever it is that you're perseverating over or going into an anxious spiral over continues on as it is, whether you are anxious or not. And you can see that in each moment of your returning to yourself, that situation remains as it is, and you are entitled to your ease and easefulness, and the situation still will remain what it is. So then it's up to you to choose whether you would like to remain in that anxious spiral, not changing anything, or if you'd like ease, not changing anything.
Audrey has a somewhat similar question. Here it is. There's just so much fear, she says, of what's to come, the unknown. How do you balance feeling and describing your emotions without becoming overwhelmed or paralyzed/numb?
Yeah, I would think less of like describing the emotion, but really feeling the emotion. We spend a lot of time actually talking about that, even that, right? It's like, well, let's talk about how feeling our emotions is what's going to happen if we feel our emotions. And it turns out that if we just do the feeling of our emotions, then we have an entirely different direct experience of the fact that feelings and emotions, they arise at they're constituted of all of these subtle sensations, and then they fall away, and then they arise again. They're not consistent. They have no real meat. It is the way that we get hooked into the mental spiral with them. We kind of get attached to the mental ideations that we're having and follow that thread than actually being with the real sensations and feelings. So I think of it as less about describing, but I have to use words to walk you through that. But in your own experience, as you're working with your body and doing a mindfulness practice, it really is just touch the sensations. You don't even have to give them a name, just touch them. We use the words to open our curiosity and allow ourselves to move out of the holding on to our ideas and moving directly into the sensation itself. My experience is that other than if people there's certain kind of mental illness issues that people can have where their feeling of themselves overwhelms us, but most of us that have pretty solid overall mental health and not a clinical issue, it turns out that our feelings just becomes that. We feel them. We move forward into the next moment. We feel the new sensation, and the solidity of the idea of that experience overwhelming us falls apart because the direct experience is that is not what happens.
And you got to do it over and over and over again.
You got to do it over and over again. Yeah.
Yes, to generate also some sort of confidence that you can do it and that it can be done. Lucas writes in.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing? I would often say to people, perhaps the most difficult thing is developing the confidence to do the practice. Like that is, the practice itself is not that difficult at all. It's, pretty simple. You listen to a few people, you're like, okay, they're pretty much all saying the same thing. But what you're doing the practice for is to develop the confidence that, that's a place that I'd like to go with this experience of anxiety I'm having instead of going down the spiral. And practice is the only thing that really builds that for you.
Amen. So Lucas K writes in, thanks, Rev. What is your plan for media consumption in the coming days and weeks? I want to be informed without being sucked into obsession.
Yeah. So I have right behind this window, I have a nice good sized screen, and I have the New York Times sitting on the front. So, and it's there, and I minimize the window. And When I feel like I want to check in and see how it's going, then I pause for a moment and say, do I really need to check in? I haven't heard anything. Nothing has, nobody's sending me text or letting me know that something has changed. And I just check in. Do I really need to check in with this right now? And sometimes the answer feels like yeah, I really want to see it. And sometimes it's like, yeah, no. And more often than not, it's yeah, no. So I want to be informed, and I also don't want, in the same way that I don't want my anxiety to overtake me, and I don't want other emotions to overtake me, then the checking in with myself allows me to be, have kind of real talk with myself. Is that really necessary? And whether that is, quote unquote true or not is not so much the issue, but rather that you can take that moment of pause with yourself and check in. That starts to create new information for you, where you'll be able to be honest with yourself that, yeah, sometimes this is not really necessary. And last night we had an election not non-watch party, where it was maybe about every half hour or so we would just, look at the map for a second and then go back to listening to music and chatting and doing everything else we were doing on a Zoom call, no less.
Very 2020 of you.
Yes.
We're going to run just a little bit over here since we had that technical difficulty at the top, which was my fault. Kara writes in, how do we deal with uncertainty for weeks and months, as this will be dragged out through the courts?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the same thing of just the uncertainty of just, even just the days. No amount of spiraling into the anxiety is going to change the outcomes. So, I highly recommend making sure that you're aware, you have the things that you love, and returning to those things regularly, keeping the routines that you have in your life in place, not overextending your body out into a future that is as of yet unknown. So it's only the fact that you are waiting for something and hoping for an answer to that something that keeps you in the despair and the anxiety of not having an answer to it. But you have many things in your life that you have an answer to right now, which, includes the people that you love in your life that you can pick up the phone and talk to, hopefully not about the election. You have the truth of the things that you like to eat, the walks that you can take, the fresh air. So returning to the present moment really truly is the antidote to the illness of getting ourselves caught out into future and out into spaces that we cannot control by any amount of anxiety. I also add that you will feel better and you will be a better person with the people that you're in relationship with if you can you can curtail the anxiety spirals.
I agree. Let me do one more question here. This is from Amy. Now I'm reading it. It says, hey, it said we can ask about Dan's cats. I would like an update on Toby et al. And how they're adjusting to their new home. That's my official question. I would not have read that question had I actually read it before I read it. But now that I've read it, yes, we escaped from New York City, which my wife and I love so much. We had the unbelievable good fortune to our lease was ending, so and we had the means to be able to to rent a house and to move really to the suburbs. We moved with my cousin Deb. Shout out to Deb; she may be watching, and her daughter, who happens to be my son's age. So we have two kids around the house, and she's a single mom, and so we got these two merged families in a pod, and these three cats that are now country cats, although we don't let them outside, and they love it. Toby is like a goldfish who grows to the size of the bowl and is now very, very large, but he's having a good time. So thank you, Amy, for the question. And more importantly, Reverend Angel, thank you so much. And I know you have a pet, you have a bird who sometimes will sing in the background when I'm talking to you, but did not sing today.
Yeah, that's because my partner is entertaining him, because that's how that works.
Oh, I see.
We're like, okay, entertain him for half an hour. We got to entertain the bird.
Got it. Really appreciate your you dropping so much wisdom on us at this crucial moment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And everybody, just, hold yourselves tight, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We will get to the other side of this. And if we can stay out of our anxiety, I think we'll get out better for it.
Agreed. And before I go, I just want to say that if you're interested in more meditative guidance at this touchy, tender moment, we've got a whole series of what we're calling election sanity meditations on the 10% Happier app. So go check that out. And on the 10% Happier podcast, we dropped a new episode this morning with a longtime collaborator of Reverend Angel Lamarad Owens. Great conversation that we did in the wee hours, and it was a great conversation. So I recommend that to you. Go check it out. In the meantime, everybody hang in there, and more stuff from 10% Happier coming all the time. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon.